This show is brought to you by our partners talkSPORT Bet. New customers can get an exclusive offer of £40 in free bets when you bet £10. Head to talksportbet.com/Inside Liverpool to claim this offer now.
The fundamentals of what Klopp's built seems like it's just literally vanishing. You've got to be asking questions. And the players are like, well, okay, well, this is what we're being told to do.
Almost feels like tactics are going out the window. He's not sure what his best team is, what the best formation is, and almost game by game, he's chopping and changing and trying to stumble upon the right formation, the right team.
Every player in the Liverpool team seems to be playing with an air of fear. That's what it looks like to me. And that's what it looks like to a lot of people. They're scared to make a mistake.
We're 14 games into this season. I'm not seeing any overall improvement. Almost feels like game by game, it's looking worse and worse and worse.
You can't keep playing and doing the same things and expecting a different result.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Inside Liverpool, coming to you on talkSPORT's YouTube channel and on your smart TVs. I'm your host, Sam Ellard, and alongside me today, one of talkSPORT's finest, the former Liverpool winger, Champions League finalist, Jermaine Pennant, and I'm also joined by the front man of the farm, Peter Hooton. Great to have you back on the show, Peter. And Jermaine, welcome. How are we, guys?
I'm good, been better, but I'm okay.
Yeah. It feels like it's been a long time, Jermaine, since we last been sat in the studio together. I think it was right before the last international break. So we're recording this show the morning after the 1-1 draw at home to Sunderland. It was 9 defeats in 12 for Liverpool in all competitions before the win against West Ham on Sunday. Then we drew against Sunderland. Just on the game last night, Jermaine, before we maybe take a look at the bigger picture of where we're at the moment, what did you make of Wednesday night's game?
Honestly, I can't recognise my team anymore. What I've watched under Klopp, what I watched last season, and what I'm seeing now is night and day. I really can't recognise the style, where it's gone, how it's dropped off so much. It's not as if we've had, massive changes of players. Yes, we've lost some key players, but we've brought in some great talent as well. But it's just the basic fundamentals of pressing, of winning the ball back, not letting other teams have time and space to hurt you, especially at Anfield. I watched yesterday, seeing Sunderland, seeing Jott just turn in the middle and get space now and press. It's crazy. If we're not going to press high, we're not low blocking either. We're literally just out there saying, all right, guys, have your day out, try and beat us, and we'll try and score. It's the fundamentals of what Klopp's built seems like it's just literally vanishing. And we're quarter of the season in. You can give it the first couple of games, you can give it a certain amount of time, but when you're like quarter of the season in and you're not seeing any difference at all, you've got to be asking questions. And the players are like, well, okay, well, this is what we're being told to do. I'm not seeing him come on the sidelines barking orders, everyone press, everyone squeeze up. They're doing what they're instructed to do.
There was a quote, Jermaine, from the Sunderland manager last night, just a simple line where he said, we almost couldn't believe how much space we had in possession. And that's a little bit of a worrying thing, isn't it? When the opposition manager, I know Sunderland had a good start to the season, but they are still, let's not forget, a promoted team. He was surprised at how much time that they were allowed to have on the ball. And watching this team, Jermaine, it almost feels as if the manager, I don't want to say he's completely lost it, but it almost feels as if we have no idea what he's trying to do. As you've said there, whether it's trying to press high up the pitch, whether it's a low block, it almost feels like tactics are going out the window. He's not sure what his best team is, what the best formation is, and almost game by game, he's chopping and changing and trying to stumble upon the right formation, the right team. Is that fair?
Absolutely. You can't argue that. As in, look, I would like to the team press high, win the ball back. If they get out of the press, then so be it. But what's the difference in letting them play out and go and run out of defence anyway? Because teams are now knowing how to set up against Liverpool. They go, right, all we've got to do, guys, is low block, because they've got no urgency to create things. So they'll pass it round, feed it here, left, right, and not really threaten. They'll get it out wide. Gakpo will, you know what he's going to do? He's going to try and come back in, try and shoot, block that off, and then he'll pass it back off in midfield. there's no urgency. So that's what teams set up. So rather than let them play that way, why don't you win the ball higher up? Because they've got to send their team up the field, try and get it up there. If you win the ball higher up, there's spaces. That's what was thrived on under Klopp and last season. But we're not seeing any of that. We're not seeing absolutely none of it. And his ideas at the moment, like you said, he's like, what team do I play? I've got Isak, I've got Ekitike, one's on the bench. Oh, we're 1-0 down. Let's bring on Ekitike. Let's bring on Isak. No, how about start both of them? Because we need goals in the first 5 minutes. We need goals in the 10 minutes. We need goals at half time. I'm not a manager, and I can see all these things. How come 14 games down the line, he still can't figure out what may work? Changes need to be had.
Peter, you were at the game last night. You've got a season ticket. What did you make of Jermaine's comments? And what's the atmosphere like? Are the sort of the match-going fans? Is patience of Slot wearing thin?
Yeah, Jermaine's quite right. It's inexplicable, really. I mean, that's one of the phrases I'm using all the time. We don't seem to have a style of play. It seems to be all haphazard. Obviously, when we got the equaliser, the crowd were fantastic. But before that, lots of moans and groans. And I think the crowd have got to play their part as well, because we all expected this to be a transition period, but we didn't expect to fall off a cliff like we have done. But when we were in the pub afterwards, we were saying 2 unbeaten. If we get a result at Leeds, that could be, Leeds had a fantastic result against Chelsea, but I fully expect a different Liverpool team to turn up. I don't know why, but on Saturday I think we will, because of the atmosphere. I think it'll galvanise the team. As Jermaine was saying, doesn't seem to be any press, doesn't seem to be any style of play, and you could see what was happening with Sunderland. Sunderland, all due respect to them, they've had some good results away from home. They've had quite a few draws. I think. It was a case of we got to break them down, but it didn't look like we were going to break them down. I couldn't understand. Isak, was a Newcastle player. I was expecting him to have a last-minute winner against Sunderland, and he took him off. I just couldn't understand it. He's feeding on scraps. We're not playing to his strengths. On Sunday, he had a little bit more time on the ball because basically we had Szoboszlai going down the right, crossing a bit more, and he did have, because we were away from home probably as well. He did have more of the ball, but we're not playing to Isak's strengths. Why spend that money and then not play to his strengths? We need, really, obviously, the wing-backs were bought for that, Kerkez and Frimpong, but, they've been, Kerkez hasn't set the world on fire and the other lad's been injured, so, there are circumstances, but I think Sunderland had so much time on the ball. We couldn't believe it, and where I was in the Kenny Dalglish stand, there was a lot of moaning and groaning about the lack of press, because we're all football managers, aren't we?
Yeah, and so do you mean the results are bad? The performances are bad, and what concerns me more than anything is we're 14 games into this season, and I know we beat West Ham on Sunday, and it was a better performance, but game by game, I'm not seeing any overall improvement. I'm not seeing, and I'm not going to sit here and say Arne Slot should be sacked, because I'm not going to do that. He won Liverpool the Premier League 6 months ago. But what I am happy to say is it's seriously concerning that we're not just losing games of football, but it almost feels like game by game it's looking worse and worse and worse. And when you're looking at positives on the pitch to try and have some hope that we can turn things around, there's nothing really to look at and have too much hope, because as you kind of rightly said, the manager just looks short of ideas in terms of what to do to try and get the best out of this team and the best out of the new players and turn things around.
Absolutely. I think he's got a bunch of great players and he's not utilising it. Some of his selections can be questionable. You're playing, this is no disrespect to Sunderland, but you're playing Sunderland at home and we've got no right-hand side. We had Joe Gomez bombing up at the edge of their box. He's predominantly a centre-back. What do you expect to be given to Alexander Isak as a centre-back? They're
There was lots of occasions where Joe Gomez had the ball on that right-hand side in a dangerous area, and you just were screaming out for him to whip the ball into the box, and every time he didn't feel comfortable to do that, and you'd always come back in field.
First man, you win the first man, and they'll get punched out, and then they'll win the second balls. Just little things like that. I get it. We've got a good result away from home. Away from home, you can understand because you want to be a bit more solid. But at home, we're going to have more possession. Why play Florian Wirtz right hand side, knowing full well he's not playing there? He's going to play in a number 10 role, number 10 area, float around. Why start him out there? Why don't you just play him as a number 10 and play someone on the attacking side on the right hand side to give his balance? We had zero balance. I'm not a manager, but I can see these things. I know we're going to come back at Sunderland and we need as much going forward to help our strikers. You've got Alexander Isak. At Newcastle, you had Murphy, you had Gordon, attacking-minded, get to the byline, getting the balls in for him to
something
score.
Jacob Murphy would do a lot is just get the ball to feet and whip into the box. How many times do you see Isak, finding space in the box, scoring headers? That's also something.
How did he score against West Ham?
Well.
One touch
quick
ball back,
into the box.
that's what he can do. But at the moment, if you've got a team who's low blocking, and we've got a lone striker, you two defenders to sit on him. What can he do? He can't run behind. There's no space. He can't get it to feet and do anything because he's got the old team around him. Like, guys, come on.
Peter, are you still backing Arne Slot?
Oh yeah, I think fans who go to game are backing Arne Slot. Yeah,
good.
No doubt about that. I just think some, as Jermaine was saying, some of the decisions. I can understand Gomez playing against West Ham because we're playing away from home, but when you needed creativity there on the right. It should have been Gomez going off and Jones coming on a lot earlier, But I think it was only in the last, when we got the equaliser, we looked like, we had a chance of winning the game, Before that, I think Arne Slot was just happy. I think he would have been happy with a 0-0. I think he want, and that's not acceptable, obviously, for Liverpool fans. But I think he was just trying to shut up shop, really, and it's not great to watch. It's very frustrating on the ground, and really, as Jermaine was saying about Wirtz, we all know what a fantastic player it is, and that was one of his better games for Liverpool. But don't seem to be utilising him, And he with Jones giving him the ball, and then he did the slaloms type run. That's what we needed. That's what we needed. I think. It shouldn't be understated either. We had, we were massively missing Diaz, as a pressing winger, and also Trent.
Yeah, that creativity from that right back area. Yeah,
brought that creativity from the right hand side. And it's so obvious. I like Joe Gomez. He's a good utility player, and we've been crying out for him to be brought in. Maybe at centre back, instead of Konate, who's always got a mistake in him.
Yeah, that's one thing, Peter. I couldn't get my. I appreciate lots of players are out of form. You can't drop them all, but Konate keeping his place in the team every single week, it's been absolutely crazy. I mean, he's been an absolute disaster, hasn't he, all season, making mistake after mistake, and I can't believe he didn't swap Gomez in for Konate weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm not saying he was at fault for the goal, but it started really from him. He's 6'5", 6'4". For some reason, he can't win a header when he's challenged. When he's got no one around him, yeah, he can head the ball. But when it's
I can head the ball, Jermaine, if no one's around me.
There you go. But when there's a striker or a player in front of him, for some reason, he hasn't got the technique to be able to climb and win those headers. That header got flicked on, ultimately fell to them. Then we went about, gave it away, and goal scored. That's his job. That's one of his job, to be winning those headers. He's a powerful defender. He should be dominating attackers, especially when he's got that strength and that height advantage like you see Virgil do. He's made a few mistakes. Well, the past 3 games he's made mistakes to goals. You can't keep playing and doing the same things and expecting a different result. Should he be starting? In my eyes, no, because I think his confidence is absolutely shot. The team's not in a great place, and you can see he's just not confident. He's not comfortable. Teams are signalling him out. When the ball goes back to the defence, make sure Konate gets it. He then goes forward and is not comfortable on the ball. He's not comfortable playing the ball around the corner. He looks to see who's on the right and he's scared. He's like, do you know what? I'm going to give it back to Virgil. And it kind of kills the momentum. So things have got to change.
So you touched at the top of the show on Arne Slot looking a little bit confused tactically, and I think that's fair. I'd also just add, I think, hindsight's a wonderful thing because I was really happy with Liverpool's recruitment come, in the summer. But I think if we go back a couple of months, maybe we do the summer all over again, and maybe prioritise the centre half over one of Ekitike and Isak. Look, I think Ekitike and Isak long term are going to be good players for Liverpool, but maybe in hindsight we should prioritise the centre back over bringing them both in at the same time, along with Florian Wirtz. But also, Jermaine, some of these players as well. You mentioned there Ibrahim Konate, and while the manager's getting stick and I understand it, some of these players, let's be honest, and I love these players, they won the league last season, some of these boys have won a Champions League and 2 league titles, but they've been, at times, absolutely woeful. I can't get my head around how you got, let's pick out Salah and Van Dijk because they're two of Liverpool's greatest ever players. Salah, generational season last season in terms of numbers, in terms of consistency. Virgil van Dijk talking about being one of the best players who ever played in the Premier League as a defender. Jermaine, you please tell me, as a former professional footballer, how can you have using those two lads as examples, being at the absolute top of their games last season, how, in the space of a couple of months, can they have fallen off so quick and so drastically?
Confidence is key. People underestimate how confidence for a footballer can literally take you from high to low. If you've got no confidence when you're on that pitch, it shows in your performances. As soon as you get a bit of confidence, a bit of morale boost as well. Everyone knows Liverpool are under under the watchful eye, and every game and every result is headlines, and these players know it, feel it. We're human, we're not robots, and the confidence is shot. And on top of that, it's also tactics as well. That plays a big part in how players play, how they perform, strengths, weaknesses. And at the moment, we're not finding that balance. So we've got no confidence. I think the system that Slot's trying to play is not working for the players.
There is no system, is there? I couldn't tell you what the system is.
There you go. So all that, combined, it just makes the players look bad.
Peter, you've been to season ticket holder at Anfield for many years, so I'm sure you'd agree that Mo Salah is one of the best players you've seen. What have you made of kind of his form and Virgil's form? I know they're not the only two players that have been well below their best, but even Van Dijk last night, Peter, the way he dealt with the pass out, giving away possession, and then when he gives away possession, and that Sunderland player is about to have a shot, the way he almost turns his back, it's not a good look, is it?
No, when he tries to give McAllister the ball and falls short, doesn't it? But yeah, it's one of those again. It's about confidence, and every player in the Liverpool team seems to be playing with an air of fear. That's what it looks like to me, and that's what it looks like to a lot of people. They're scared to make a mistake. I think that's where the fans play an important role. Fans have got to get away from the idea that like last season, was a all-conquering team, and we had an air of calmness about us. And we had that, I think, against West Ham on Sunday. There's an air of calmness there again. I thought, it's coming back, but last night it was back to square one. And there was no confidence there. And when we went behind, the only positive thing I'd say from last night was when we went behind against the likes of PSV and Forest, we collapsed. Whereas last night there was a bit of fight. But we want to see leaders on the pitch. You want to see people sulking because they've been put on the bench. We want to see leaders on the pitch. And we were all glad that Salah came on. Everyone on the ground was glad that Salah came on to provide that creativity. But he's getting players doubling up and tripling up on him. So it's hard for him to... and Isak's not going to get the ball off Salah, is he? Salah cuts in, doesn't he, and tries to shoot himself. The only time he get a cross is outside of the foot from Salah, which he did last year quite magnificently a few times. But, Isak's he's screaming. I've seen him on the pitch last night. He was screaming for the ball, and he just wasn't getting it. He wants it to feet, or he wants it, pull back from a winger. And it's just not happening, So it just seems to be, the whole play is so insipid without direction that, it's only when we go one behind that there seems to be a bit of a reaction,
Did you think it was right to firstly drop Salah on Sunday and then not play him again last night?
Yeah, I think because at the end of the day, look, Mo Salah's Liverpool legend, and I would never speak bad of Mo Salah, but when you're in this kind of position and he's not giving you anything going forward, because he certainly doesn't give you anything defensively, and that's where we've been struggling. Goals lose you games, and we'll be conceding, game after game, and our left-hand side is probably getting a lot of, kind of pressure on there. And so we needed to do things different and shore that up. So, rightly so, to put him on the bench, just to see if things can, move forward. And it worked. We got a good result against West Ham, albeit, they're struggling as well. So you can't read too much into it. And I think it's probably the right thing to do, and bring him on if need be, until he earns that Mo Salah righteous again, until he gets that, that hunger, that fight back inside him. Because at the moment, he's half the player that we've seen and had.
So it feels like, Jermaine, that Arne Slot in the first 14 games of the season has tried all sorts of different combinations, all sort of different starting 11s to try and get the best out of his team. Is there anything that he hasn't done that you would like to see him do? The only thing I would say, I'm surprised he's persevering with Gakpo on that left-hand side. I thought maybe it's worth seeing Ekitike have a go on that left-hand side, almost a front three, or possibly Ekitike, Isak, Salah, with Wirtz playing in behind maybe, but then you're giving up one of the midfield three. Is there anything he hasn't done that you want to see him do?
Yes, for sure. You just touched on giving up on one of the midfield three. None of them have been amazing.
Yeah, with McAllister playing at the moment, you can argue they're playing with a midfield two anyway.
So none of them have been amazing where you can go, you've got to keep him on the pitch. I'd probably say it's a Bosley for the legs and what he gives you. Gravenberch's been off the ball. McAllister is being miles off it. So we're not losing anything magical. We're not losing someone who's in great form. So yes, you play Gakpo, it's predictable. You know what he's going to do. He's going to go down the line, he's going to check back. He's going to try and shoot. If he doesn't, he's going to play it back to one of the midfielders. Same with Salah. He doesn't go down the line. He cuts in. It's predictable. So as a managing opposite team, you go, right, boys, low block. This is what they're going to do. They're key man. They're going to do this. Where do you want him to go? You want Gakpo to come inside because all of our midfielders and defenders are there. When we had Diaz, he would go down the line. If you lose it, so what? Go again. But guess what it does? It gives a defender something to think about. Is he going to come in or is he going to go down the line? So it opens up a little bit. But right now, Gakpo does not want to go down the line. He does not want to do that. So I would like to see Ekitike because he's direct. He's a lot more direct. So play Ekitike out there. Play Isak down the middle. Salah on the right. Wirtz number 10. Then you've got Gravenberch and Szoboszlai in there with legs. Just give it a go. It's not like anything else is going to be, don't do it because it may cost us. We're not in a great place.
We've lost 9 and 12, didn't we, up until Sunday? So
it
feels like you can't get any worse. What do you make to that, Peter? Anything that you've, going to the games, anything Liverpool fans are suggesting that you'd like to add?
I think no one is really suggesting anything at the moment because, everyone's just bewildered.
Yeah.
That's obviously you got people saying, Salah should be benched, especially against West Ham. But, I was surprised he was on the bench again last night, and we were crying out for him, really. But when he comes on, there was another positive from last night, is he linked up quite well with when Jones came on. We were doing triangles on the right, which was looked quite good, and nothing ever really came off. But at least they were trying something. They were trying to break that block down, But I think, I think I'd like to see Ekitike and Isak with Wirtz behind them. What that means abandoning Salah, and that's what he might try. I think with AFCON when he goes away for that, because he's only got a couple of games left, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think it's the December 15th, isn't it, the Brighton game, and then he might. I've seen suggestions, Jermaine, that he could go maybe to a back five, and obviously the wing backs quite naturally. Certainly Milos Kerkez is quite aggressive. It means you can then play both Isak and Ekitike as a two together up front, with maybe Wirtz in behind. If Gomez plays alongside Kanate and Virgil, maybe does it give us a little bit more defensive stability. I mean, I'm just thinking now. I mean, you know, almost run out of ideas, haven't we, of things to suggest? But that's one thing we haven't done this season, is it? Completely go to a back five.
It would definitely give you a little bit more stability, but then it's a brand new formation and system for the players and team to.
But again, 9 defeats in 14, it would be almost can't get any worse.
Yeah, I know, but then you've got a manager. That's not my style. That's not my formation. So he may not feel comfortable with that. I just want to touch on though. Last season, we spoke about Slot saying he plays a more controlled, you know, and it's not as chaos as Slot. But teams weren't playing the way they play against Liverpool now. Liverpool have kind of, on the back of last season, teams have now come up and go, right, we can't play how we used to. We can't really kind of go to them. We have to sit back and the low block and make it difficult and, you know, keep it compact. Slot's not adjusted to that. He's still not adjusted to that. He's still slow build up. Back, left, right, out to the wingers, back in. He's not adapted. And every team that will come up against, I'm thinking, where are we going to get a goal from? Why? I'm not a manager and I can see this every time I watch Liverpool. So I don't know what he's seeing that he's thinking his slow build up, you know, control the ball. Because the player said it at the start of the season. Yeah, it's different to Slot. It's not as Klopp. It's not as, you know, chaotic. We want to keep the ball more possession. But that's just giving the team going, yeah, you have the ball in front of us. It's no worries. You're not going to hurt us by doing that. It's got to be more decisive, more direct. Yeah,
it's a good point, Jermaine. But Peter, I'm seeing, you know, people, and I'm not saying I agree with this opinion, but I've seen lots of people on social media in the last few weeks saying that, you know, the players aren't running anymore. The players don't seem to be, you know, trying as much anymore. Don't seem to be, you know, as aggressive in terms of winning the ball back. I mean, is that a lazy analysis? Because I can't imagine a situation, even if results are terrible and players are playing badly. I can never imagine Liverpool players not trying or not giving it 100%. How do you see it being at the games?
I think it's an appearance of that. I think that's, you know, it's an appearance of that. I think you know, basically you'd have to look at the stats, and I think the stats would be pretty similar to last season, you know, in terms of running. But I mean, last night 23 shots we had on goal, which is about the average for last season. How many on target? 4. It just shows you we're not getting, you know, we're not working the goalkeepers. And he was so comfortable, that goalkeeper last night. You know, he was just plucking the ball out the sky, wasn't he? You know, and there was never any real threat to him. You know, I mean, I think McAllister's header hit the post, didn't it? You know, but, you know, maybe Liverpool have got to adopt a new style, maybe, and, you know, I think that might mean the wing backs, you know, and who knows? You know, maybe Slot didn't want these players. You just don't know what's going on. There hasn't been any leaks to that effect yet. Yeah. But obviously,
Peter, I think that's a really interesting thing to discuss, because it almost does feel like, even at the beginning of the season where we were winning games, it almost felt like Arne Slot didn't have a game plan. You think when all these players come and spend that amount of money, you like to think that Arne Slot is sat with Edwards and Hughes and having these discussions, and Arne Slot's working out, as they're talking about players who to sign, how they're going to fit in the system, how he's going to get the best out of them. And even when we were winning games, it never felt as if he knew where to play first. Was he playing on the left-hand side? Was he playing in the 10? He never knew the balance of the team. So I think it's a really interesting point that, was Arne Slot, did he have a say on transfers? But then I also can't imagine a situation where Michael Edwards, who has been Liverpool for a long, long period of time, you know, right from the early days of Jurgen Klopp, and our recruitment as a whole since Michael Edwards has been in charge has been pretty good. I can't imagine that he said, go away, Arne Slot, enjoy your summer holidays. I'm going to spend £400 million, bring you 6-7 new players, and Arne Slot didn't have any say or any control. That feels almost not right.
He would have had a say. But the fact is,
maybe not the final say, but he's
a new manager, so he's probably thinking, okay, yeah, I'm happy with these decisions. Where Klopp was like, there was a power struggle with Klopp and Edwards.
Sure.
It's like, no, I'm not having that player. He's not right for this team. We don't want him. We're going to get this guy because it's right for my system. Where now Slot is like, okay, you know, timid, is new. He just came in, so he doesn't want to really like come around as bossy. So, you know, when these players are getting suggested, he's probably thinking in the back of his mind, you know, he's not sure, okay, but he's a great player. Okay, yeah, let's take him in. That's a difference here. So it's not that he's not his players, it's like he's he was probably 50-50, but just went with it because he's new into the team. He's new here. He wants to make a good impression. Slot gave him a team. So I keep saying Slot. Klopp.
Klopp, yeah.
Klopp gave him a team that was black and white. Knew the system, knew the players, knew how to play. You play there, Diaz. Jott, you come in whenever. Now those key players have gone. He's got new players in, and he's a bit lost. I've got to do it, and he's unsure, and he needs to figure it out as soon as possible.
You know what we've got about 10 minutes or so left. I want to try and end, if we can, or finish off on a little bit of positive talk, because it's a bad run of form, 9 defeats in 14. But if I'd have said to you that we've lost 9 in 14, and that is in all competitions, not just the Premier League, how many points would it be off the top 4? I mean, my guess would have been maybe something 6 to 8. But we're 8th in the Premier League table. We're only 2 points off Chelsea in 4th place, and Chelsea, I know they got beat by Leeds themselves, but people, going into that game against Arsenal on Sunday, Peter, were talking about Chelsea being title challengers. So essentially, despite us having this awful start to the season, we're 2 points off 4th place and title challenging Chelsea, which doesn't sound as bad as what maybe I thought it would be.
Exactly, and people forget that City lost 9 out of 11 last season.
Yeah, and they came top 4 still.
Same period, and no one was talking about, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's frozen. I think it's all circumstances. Apart from Arsenal, most teams in the Premier League, they're like Jekyll and Hyde teams, aren't they? Who could see Chelsea going there after the performance on Sunday and getting beat by Leeds? But he did make loads of changes, didn't he? And that's so. Chelsea's team against Arsenal might have beaten Leeds. You just don't know. So I think. At the moment, I'm fairly confident we can go to Leeds and we can get we can avoid defeat or possibly win the game.
I'm glad you are.
I never thought I'd hear a Liverpool fan say I'm confident of going to Leeds and avoiding defeat.
No, because you've got to bear in mind the crowd at Leeds, haven't you? It's a big game for them, and Jekyll and Hyde team, Liverpool. But I think if we can avoid defeat, even possibly snatch a win, that'd be
that'd be nice.
Yeah, 7 points out of 9. I think that's what Carragher was talking about.
It just goes to show where we are. Where we're talking about the reigning champions of the Premier League.
Going
and
to
now we're going to
Leeds,
saying we can snatch a win.
We can avoid defeat.
It's remarkable.
Yeah.
I'm going to be totally honest.
I've never seen you this irate before, Jermaine. By the way, you're a very, very happy-go-lucky guy.
I am. But
you're passionate about Liverpool, obviously.
I know, and it pains me to see this fall, and I just don't see. Each game now, especially this Leeds game, I don't know the result. I genuinely don't know. I don't know.
You only Liverpool for a few years, so I can't imagine you would have gone through a spell in your time there that was obviously nowhere near this bad, but can you imagine not just being in Liverpool but playing in the Premier League and you're going through defeat. You used the word confidence earlier with these players being out of form. Is it how hard is it to pick yourself up, and what's almost training like? Day to day is the atmosphere inside the training ground low? Is it all just a little bit doom and gloom?
It is. I'm not gonna lie. I've been at other clubs where you're fighting for your lives and results ain't going your way, and especially when you're a big club like Liverpool, a massive club, that pressure is heightened times 10. So the players will be. You feel it throughout. It echoes throughout the city. From the fans. Then you got the manager, who's you see him under a little bit of pressure. Training's a little bit different, more intense, and the players on the back of a result like drawing to Sunderland is not good. So they were coming in training unsure and a bit down. Some of the performances, one of them, a couple of them, most of them would have been off. So their confidence is shot a little bit. So it's difficult, and you need results when you get on that winning train. Sometimes it's hard. It's hard to lose. It's just like second nature. You turn up. Well,
it becomes a bit of a habit. Losing, it almost feels like we're in a rut. We can't get out of it.
It's the same way as losing and drawing.
So it's Leeds this Saturday, which is the 5:30 game. Then we've got a tough game in the Champions League as well. The following Wednesday, against following midweek against Inter Milan, which will obviously be a big game, having lost that PSV game. But we are recording this on Thursday, the 4th of December. So I wanted to read this from Liverpool's social media page this morning. Today, as every day, we remember Diogo Jota on what would have been his 29th birthday. All of our love, thoughts and prayers continue to be with his wife, his children, parents and all of his family and friends, as well as those of his brother. Forever in our hearts, forever our number 20. So it's every day is an emotional day, isn't it, at the moment, Peter, with the tragic loss of him during the summer. But always his name, his song is being chanted, isn't it, every single game, home fans, away fans, and he's somebody that will never ever be forgotten.
No, yeah, it's a very poignant day when you see that from the official Twitter that it was his birthday, and I think there's on 20 minutes people usually stand up and applaud, and that there have been some people talking about that, how long is this going to go on, and people were talking about we're playing Wolves on the 27th of December, and obviously because he played for Wolves as well, maybe that would be the fitting end to the year for a celebration of him. But a lot of fans are actually saying it's distracting the players, But against Forest for the first 20 odd minutes, we were fantastic. Against PSV, we were great. And then that comes along, and some people, not me, but other people are saying, it's distracting the players. And just imagine being reminded of it. Because obviously, people deal with fatalities differently, don't they? And the players, it must have really obviously affected them. He was a very popular teammate. So is it a case of do they want to be reminded every game? I don't know. I think that would be a fitting end to it. In the Wolves game, the end of the year.
It's an emotional couple of months, an emotional day, and of course on the day of Diogo Jota's birthday, our thoughts are with his family and friends, obviously, at this incredibly challenging time and challenging couple of months. Jermaine, thank you as always. Peter, thank you as always, gents. You've been watching the latest episode of Inside Liverpool. We're going to be back in a couple of weeks' time. It's a busy month, isn't it, December? Lots of Premier League football, lots of Premier League fixtures, the Champions League game in there as well. Fingers crossed the mighty Liverpool can get back to winning ways. Hey, it might be 9 defeats in 14 if we want to take the glass half full approach. Only 2 points off the top four. We back Arne Slot, we back the players. See you very, very shortly on Inside Liverpool.